Hello, Steve. Hello, Jill. It's time to game classy.
Steve is muted yet again. All the time he starts off this with mute on. I don't understand what's going on. Oh, there he goes.
For a second there, I got a message that said this host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves.
That's right. This is all Joe cast. Prepare for nasal Chicago accents all the way through.
Fuck. And complaints.
Yes. Are you recording? You sound like you're recording at the bottom of Buffalo Bill's well in his basement.
Well, maybe I am.
So, put the lotion on your skin, Steve. Put the lotion on your skin, or you get the hose again.
Oh no, I don't know what you're talking about.
I got your goddamn dog. I just rewatched that movie. I you know what? When I was a kid, I didn't get it. Now that I'm older and I've watched a lot of things that were inspired by Silence of the Lambs, I really like that movie.
It was good.
I mean, when I was a kid, though, I was like, this is you. Who directed that? That was it Demi? Yeah, it was Demi. I was just like, I don't get this, and it's like this is kind of boring. Why is this so scary? And now as an adult, I'm watching, and I'm like, yeah, it's not as scary as like people. Like if I was 40 in 1990 watching this, I'd be like terrified. But now that I'm 40 in 2022, not as scary of a movie.
You've been hearted by hard-hitting films such as VHS 99.
Oh my God, what a waste of celluloid.
Oh, I enjoyed VHS 99. I thought it was fun.
There wasn't a single thing on there that was like the I don't know. I felt like the opening was a little like early 2000s, which fine is 99. I'll give you on that one, but I don't feel like there was anything that happened in that movie that was remotely related to the year 1999.
Yeah, I don't think they did. They didn't do anything specifically for 1999. There was a lot of like, yeah, this is clearly 90s. Like they had the Legends of the Hidden Temple, which was the most insane thing. It was so good.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I felt like that one was that one was at least somewhat interesting to watch. I was like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, the opening one where they're like going to the haunted venue, that one, first of all, they were making fun of like the white lion disaster. Was it White Lion? When there was that fire at the nightclub when they were playing.
Right. Yeah.
And that happened in the early 2000s. And it just felt more early 2000s than late 90s. I only say that because most people that would blur in their heads. But 1999 was my senior year in high school. It was an important turn for me, and I remember those years very heavily.
Tonight you're gonna party like it's 1999.
Exactly. And then they had the one with like where they go to hell. I was like, this is just a like this has nothing to do with anything.
No, I did like that short, but yes, it did have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, and then there was the Medusa one. I thought was interesting because it did kind of feel a little.
Actually,
90s.
that one was definitely that one. Other than the Legends of the Hidden Temple one, obviously, that the Medusa one definitely was 90s because they were like they did the whole thing like buying the computer that comes in the big box. It's just like it's got the the giant, the whole thing is just in the giant ass box and it's got the big bulky monitor. And she's like, how do I set up the internet?
Yeah. I mean, the reason why it felt very 90s was because of how like the boys were very, very sexual assault oriented, which if you watch absolutely. A lot of 90s movies, you feel really gross afterwards.
It is. They nailed that for sure.
Yeah, it's just too bad the entire section just kind of failed to stick the landing, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one where they go to hell though, because that was done by the same people who did Deadstream.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. So I mean, and Deadstream, if you guys haven't watched it yet, it's on Shudder. I don't know if I think it's only on Shudder. I think it's Shudder exclusive.
I think it is also Shudder exclusive.
So it is a movie about a live streamer who goes to a haunted house, right? He's a disgraced live streamer trying to get his reputation back, goes to this haunted house to spend the night. I hated the whole live streamer aspect of it because I hate live streamers in general. Like there's not a single live streamer I'm aware of on the internet that I possibly like.
They nailed it. Like that's that for me, like that's like a huge selling point. Like they nailed this guy.
I mean, you're absolutely correct. They nailed the entire persona, but it's just I hate those people so much that it's very difficult to watch it. What they really got was his voice when he talks like this.
Yes.
Why do they all talk like that?
They all have the same, they oscillate the same way. And when they're doing like the apology or when they're like, whoa, guys, I can't believe it. You're never going to guess who sent me this package.
Yeah, it's kind of like a quiet,
Hello Fresh.
It's a quiet, loud talk, which is very, very weird.
Yeah, it is.
Like
it's very du jour.
I
don't know why.
I think it's because it's like designed for little kids. And sometimes like you talk like that to a little kid. Now, maybe not exactly like that, but it just seems like that's what people think little kids want to be talked to.
Oh yeah, I like everyone has universally agreed that something is a way, but there's nothing that actually points in that direction.
Yeah, I can't.
Everyone agreeing.
The only thing I could think of is with my own children, at least, is like Blippi. Blippi kind of talks like that.
Okay.
And I know a couple YouTube streamers who talk like that, but I don't know where. I wouldn't know. I can't pinpoint to where it begins, which is not unusual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but what I do love about Deadstream though, and I recommend it 100% to anybody watching, is the horror elements are so well done.
Oh, they're great.
I haven't seen a horror movie that really captures that style of manic haunted house since the Evil Dead series. And the guy is obviously ripping off the Evil Dead with a lot of what he does, but he does it very well.
Yeah, it's absolutely agreed. Like there's a ton of, I think there's definitely a sequence that is like all 100% out of an Evil Dead movie.
Exactly. And it's like, if you say like Evil Dead 2 is an A+, this movie is probably like A+ with the horror. Deadstream is probably, I would say, a solid B. Like it's definitely not like a B+, but it's definitely not a B-. So it's a solid B.
I was a fan of Deadstream as well. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, honestly, if they had just gotten rid of the streamer plot and had it as a guy in a haunted house movie, I would have really enjoyed the hell out of it. But that's just because I think live streamers are pieces of shit. And even though he is a sympathetic character, I just always think that live streamers are just pieces of shit.
He even nailed him plugging the sponsors like at those perfect spots too. So
yeah, I think it's just, one thing I've grown to appreciate in my 40s, well, my 30s and 40s is, sometimes studio interference is a good thing. So that's why I always say like internet content, ironically, as we are talking this on internet, internet content.
Yes, internet content, as we are internet content,
really should have an editor and really should have probably an executive somewhere, at least giving it a hand wave. Granted, executive interference is not always good. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes an editor going an executive going, maybe you shouldn't say the N-word.
Yes,
on your live cast.
Yeah, having someone there to like be that final check and or balance is probably a good idea.
Yes, that's not the content creator. I would love to have a professional editor work on this podcast. Granted, if they took out all of the ums and uhs that I say in this cast, it would probably take our total runtime down about a half hour. But
and it would be a zippy half hour.
And I wouldn't,
and scan all over me.
I could go through it and actually edit the podcast, but I'm not making money out of this.
Editing is not hard, but it is time consuming as
very much so. But I do. So anyway, I do recommend Deadstream. I think it was a very fun movie. Also watch Barbarian. Barbarian was good.
Yeah, I was a fan of Barbarian.
I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think there was a lot of issues script wise, but I liked a lot of it.
Like I said, the first thing I thought of after I finished it, I was like, that movie was basically just Castle Freak.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, Lurking Fear was the one I said it was, because the well, I don't want to give it too much away, but it's definitely not a very original plot.
Yes.
I think it's very heavily Lovecraft borrowed. They borrow a lot from Lovecraft.
Well, that's what Castle Freak is the same thing.
Very similar to Castle Freak. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a oh man, Castle Freak, that would be so bad.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Castle Freak fan. Those 90s Stuart Gordon ones are not my jam so much.
Right.
Because he did Castle Freak and I think Dagon were his 90s ones.
I did like Dagon.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dagon in years, so maybe I'll give it a rewatch.
Yeah, I liked it when I watched it, 20 some years ago or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I Barbarian, just to me, it felt like it was 3 movies merged together, but not 3 separate different movies, but 3 movies in a series. Like, it was obviously the first movie in the series, the second movie in the series, and the prequel that explains everything, all mashed into one. And I think each part should have been more fleshed out before we got with that total movie as a whole.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's not bad. Like, that's a minor quibble on my part, where it's kind of like, I wish you had fleshed out parts 1 and 2 and a little bit of the prequel that you decided to do, or focused on just one of those aspects. So, right. It you know what, in the grand scheme of things, I got 3 movies in one. I don't have to watch the other 2. So there we go.
That's true.
I don't have to waste my time watching the horrible sequel starring Justin Long, or the prequel starring nobody we really know that's famous, but it's like, oh wait, it's that one guy from that one scene and explains why he's down there.
Yes.
So, that's kind of my feeling with it. Anywho, let's talk about the controversy du jour, shall we?
Oh, the big what did you call it? The big Spiky Bits controversy?
The Spiky Bits controversy. So I think it's kind of funny. I don't actually ever go to Spiky Bits. I'm more of a Bell of Lost Souls guy when I'm looking up some stuff.
Please. Bowls.
Yes. Bowls, because I just like saying bowls.
Bowls. I read it on Bowls.
Spiky Bits I never really go to, but it's funny the amount of hate Spiky Bits gets online. And I don't really know why. It's probably because I don't go to Spiky Bits.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't really know why people don't like it as much as they do. I was trying to read up like why people don't like Spiky Bits, and a lot of people say that they steal content, which I think is interesting. I don't know if they steal content. Like, I was looking up, does Spiky Bits steal content? And this is Spiky Bits reporting if they steal their own content. And it's kind of like saying, like, cops don't do anything wrong. They're investigated by the cops, and they find that they don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, we've investigated ourselves, and we've determined that we're not guilty.
We're not guilty. Yeah, it's kind of like what Spiky Bit says. It's like, do you steal content? Well, no, we don't steal content. We did this in-depth thing to see if we steal content, and the answer is no. But anyway, so what I have been able to piece together, now this just kind of broke yesterday. And as all of our fans are well aware of, we don't do any sort of research whatsoever for this podcast.
This is true.
Because if we did, I feel like we would lose our edge. We'd
lose our core audience who want our hard-hitting journalism.
Yes. So apparently, this is how it goes. So starting off at the very beginning, there's a painter online named Juan Hidalgo.
I've watched a bunch of stuff. Yeah, he does fun stuff with contrast.
Yeah, and this is another thing where it's like, why would I watch a video about people painting when I can just paint my own figures? And apparently people really like watching other people paint, And then they go, oh, I really wish I should really paint my own guys this way. And then they never paint their own guys. They just watch people painting all the time. So, more power to you. But whatever. So he's a painter. I was looking at his stuff yesterday. He's pretty good. I mean, he's a very interesting painter. He has his own style. I like he did a whole thing about contrast paints, which I thought was interesting. And his results are really good. I don't think that he's doing anything what's what I'm looking for, revolutionary or groundbreaking. He's just a really good standard painter. So apparently he got a bunch of the contrast paints from Army Painter, whatever they're called, speed paints.
Speed paints, yes.
So he did the speed paints on his he reviewed them on his webpage, and he basically kind of broke the whole reactivation thing that we were talking about a couple casts back, which is, my feeling. Steve mentioned this before. I have a hard on to hate Army Painter paints, and I do. For the most part, I've maybe come across one or two Army Painter paints that I like. I think mostly they are too chunky, too thick. And you get what you pay for. Steve likes them.
Yeah, I think they're good for their advertised task. That is what I feel about the Army Painter. They're very good for their advertised task.
So anyway, Juan Hidalgo ended up working. So I don't know. The timeline is really funky for me. I can't really figure it out too much. But apparently around the same time, Juan Hidalgo was working with Vallejo on developing their speed paint contrasts.
Yeah, Express. They're calling it Express.
Express. Was that with just an X?
Yes, just an X. Very, very nice. Speaking of 90s.
Yeah, speaking of 90s. I was like, I'm gonna paint you with using my Express paints and drink some Mountain Dew Extreme.
Yeah. Two quick notes about other contrast alternatives, but the first one is, so keep in mind, I would like to coach this story of something that happened before this story. Juan Hidalgo actually produced another video with how he fixed the speed paints reactivation issue, and it's a very interesting solution. If you use a 1-to-1 of any speed paint and then Games Workshop contrast medium, it stops all the reactivation for even the worst colors, which was the red and the blue.
I could see that. I can honestly, that's a decent way of doing it. If I was going to say, if you added a medium that actually dries, so like contrast, the thing with contrast medium is that it creates kind of like almost like a plasticky sheen to using contrast, which is why I'm not a huge fan of them to begin with. I like using them as accent colors. What I really like using them for, I like the reddish brown one. I really like using for like rust streaks because they do dry, and they're not oil based, so you don't have to worry about like oil based, paints all over your fucking models.
Yes,
because you don't know the amount of people that I have to tell, no, don't use oil-based paint. You are not skilled enough to use oil-based paint. You're not there. And I'm not saying I'm skilled enough, because I'm not skilled enough either. But anyway,
that's a very specific skill set.
Yes. So it's not just something you can jump into. So anyway, this guy, Juan Hidalgo, works with Vallejo to create kind of their Army Painter killer, as I think a couple websites were calling it. So Spikey Bits, I guess, did a hit piece on Juan Hidalgo saying, what's it called? Yeah, he basically on purpose tanked the Army Painter paints.
Well, tried to tank, because those paints are continuing to still be a huge success.
Yeah. So they put okay. So here and I know in the article that Spikey Bits put out, they said content creator Juan Hidalgo from JH Miniatures sort of invented the reactivation issue about how supposedly speed paint is defective, and went on to say that they stay in a reactivation phase for days on end, which is just untrue. So he did this whole entire thing where he's kind of like breaking down and saying that like Juan Hidalgo purposely did it. And basically they got into a Twitter fight on it and people just started taking sides. Now, here's the thing. You're going up against a guy who's pretty well liked. He's got a YouTube channel that's got 66,000 subscribers. It's not huge, but it's not break the internet huge. I know that there are people like standard painters. There's some painters who have over 100 to 200,000 viewers, subscribers. It's not as great as our 200 subscribers we have on our YouTube channel. We don't even have that much. I think we have like 50.
Oh. For a second I was like, wow, 200 on YouTube, that's kind of sweet.
Yeah, I don't think we have that many.
Damn.
I'm not. Let's not mince the words here.
We need to post more.
We have 175 subscribers on YouTube.
We need to post more anime girl ass thumbnails.
Yes. So just to let you know, we only have.
If you want some good, if you need some suggestions for the anime girl ass pics for the thumbnails, just let me know.
I understand. Yes. I if I need any sort of anime anything, I would go to you. Or I would go to one of the 12-year-olds that I work with who are really into anime. I think you and the 12-year-old both have about the same type of taste in anime. So.
You think so? You think they're into Berserk? Fist of North Star, maybe?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's anime. I still call it Japanimation on occasion.
We got it yesterday, Chief. It's Afghanistanimation.
Afghanistanimation, yeah. I think that there is nothing that's better than like when you get a guy who's really into hardcore anime and you just say, yeah, I watched a lot of Japanimation back in the 90s and just watch their face like contort.
It was advertised as that.
Japan, yeah, exactly. But I mean, you never know. So anyway, the internet has taken sides, and Spikey Bits, they get about, they probably get, I think I was reading somewhere that they get about 50,000 views a day, which is a fuck ton of views for the website. But I know that for a fact that Reddit, their boards gets about 100 and like 300,000 views, and now that they've permanently banned Spikey Bits, they're not allowed to post anything from Spikey Bits onto many of the Warhammer subreddits, especially Warhammer 40K, which I think is the biggest one. They have, the Warhammer 40K one has 540,000 subscribers, and Spikey Bits is now blocked, so that's going to be a kind of a hit because they probably get a lot of traffic from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I just so with me, it's like, why is this even a thing? Was this just like, did he just need content and he was like, I'm going to be the Woodward and Bernstein of Warhammer and break this story, and it's going to make me a hero in the hearts of millions?
So I said gaming news sites have finally caught up to the yellow journalism phase.
I mean, seriously, who the fuck gives a shit? You know why I go to like Bell of Lost Souls or Spikey Bits? Just to see like, that's coming out, that's new. Great. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like everyone wants more eyes, more clicks, because now, I'm sure this is a extremely, it doesn't post their view counts obviously because it's their own page, but I'm sure this is an extremely accessed, extremely shared, extremely talked about page. So now, when Spikey Bits wants to sell ad space, they get to go, yeah, I mean, our website last year had blah blah blah, plus 200,000% traffic, and they have the numbers to back it up because they have how many people access the site. So suddenly, it's more revenue.
Yeah, it's clickbait.
Right, that's the problem. Like everything is driven by algorithm. Everything. So now, because everything's driven by algorithm, all that matters is engagement. And the problem is that like wanting engagement as your metric isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is not caring how engagement is generated. That's the problem.
Yeah, very much.
Because it doesn't care how the engagement or the context of the engagement. It just cares that things are being engaged with.
You know what's a website I actually kind of enjoy going to for reviews of stuff? I like going to Goonhammer. Do you ever go to Goonhammer?
Yeah, I've been to Goonhammer a few times. I remember it because that name is very easy to remember.
You know why I like it? I like it because they actually post articles, and it's not some guy just sitting in front of a screen reading the rule book.
Yes.
Like whoever's in charge of it, that long-haired guy, who it's like on one hand where I'm like, you know, you really should get a haircut. You're a little older than me, but on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, he's living his best life. Let him be. But they actually write a full up review, like old school, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I want as a 40-year-old person. I can't sit there and listen to this guy going, all right, we're going to go over the new rule book for the Horus Heresy. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, directed. You want you you want to tell people to skip with the quail sauce, give you the meat, and give it to you raw.
Exactly. And I'm fine with it. You know, like he does videos too. I've seen some of his videos. They're pretty good. My favorite one that he did was he did one when I think it was Dominion came out, and he was like, why Games Workshop really shouldn't send preview copies to people online. And he like went through this whole thing about why it's essentially useless because all they do is open up the box and just show the shit in it. And he's like, yeah, here you go. This is it. Like, you really don't need to do this. It's fine. And I was like, that's refreshing. I mean, I still can't handle it because I can't go to anyone for anything. Like I was hanging out with Dwayne the other day, and he was talking about this new style of painting called slap chop. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, it's you just dry brush two colors and you like that. Like that's not even new. It's old.
Well, yeah, it's like slap chop, but it's with contrasts.
Yes. It's because they're very pigmented. So yeah, I get it. It looks like it works great. I'm probably going to use a.
It does not. It does not look great. I have not seen a single slap chop model where I haven't go. If you just spent more time on it, it would look nice.
I think for board games, I think for anything you're treating as a board game, I think it's very good.
Okay. Yes. If you're doing it for a board game, fine. But if you're doing an actual mini army for one of these games that you're spending a lot of money on, you probably should spend some time on it and make it look nice.
Yeah, I would not use it for I would not use it for a army. I would use it for like I said, anything board game level.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I have come to with a lot of board games that I have seen lately. If I see all those minis, and I think we talked about this before, I'm just kind of like turned off by it at this point.
Oh yeah.
I mean, certain things I would be excited about with like a lot of minis. Like, remember the Forbidden Stars? Do you remember that game?
That was the old 40K board game, right?
Yeah, the Forbidden Stars or the 40K game, Horus Heresy.
Yes.
You know, the big one. I'd be happy with like those minis are fine because there's not a ton of them, and they kind of do add to the game. But essentially, they're just epic, vehicles and shit like that.
Right.
I'm happy with that. Miniatures for games like Ogre, I'm okay with. But Cool Mini or Not, like I was just looking at their Cool Mini or Not's new Kickstarter, Cthulhu Death May Die. It's like it's not their new one. It's like their second, not second edition, but like a new expansion, I guess. I don't know what exactly. Season 3 is it? Maybe that's what it is. I was looking at it and I was like, fuck, there's so many minis in this game. I just don't understand. But I actually kind of really like their investigators because I was like, those are the one thing that are really difficult to find for Call of Cthulhu, our investigators. But you don't really want miniatures for Call of Cthulhu, so it's kind of a half of one, six of the other, half dozen of one, six of the other.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I was like, there are so many goddamn minis in this fucking game. What is even the point? I don't know. Is Death May Die is like a specific engine, right?
Yeah, I think so. Hang on.
It's not like I could hear you typing. It's not like like its own. I don't know if it's like borrowing from an engine or if it's its own game or something like that.
I'm looking now because I actually have to look at this one because I've never actually heard of the base or like the tagline.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to look at it here.
I mean, it sounds familiar enough that I'm like, maybe I've heard this before, but I may have heard it from like the first edition of Death May Die.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's based on anything else. Let's see, 'cause
Okay.
it's got. Uh, no, this definitely looks like its own thing.
Oh, that's good. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's not a terrible price for the game, actually. I was looking at it, and it's for $100, which is pretty decent. This you get all the
That's like board game price now.
yeah. It's like you get all of the you get everything with it. Like there's no there's nothing. There's a lot of stuff that you can buy into with it. Like there's a definitely a lot of the first one was the one with the big Cthulhu. Remember there was that controversy with it where it's like you had to buy the big Cthulhu, which you at the end, which was the end game boss, and really you couldn't win the game without it.
Oh right, yes.
And it was like an extra like $100 to get it.
Yeah. People were like, why would you not just put this in the base game?
Yeah, and I
Because it's
think
like if you need it, because it's like, well, we can't put it in the base game because in the base game it would cost $200. It's like, but you still need it, so I still have to spend the money anyway. So why didn't you just put it in one box?
yeah, it was like you got in order to get the big Cthulhu, you had to get like the expansion on it, and it was like an extra $150 or something like that. It was like a ridiculous price.
Yeah, it was expensive.
But I just like that the fact that you get like a ton of these investigators, which are really fantastic because you never really see good investigator models. The only people like God, what was the fucking company that was putting out the Call of Cthulhu minis? Was it Rapham? I think it was Rapham.
I think that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, and those are all 40-year-old miniatures at this point, and they're all look really bad. They have their charm. Let's put it that way. They have their charm. But these new ones, like you get like a football player carrying a knife, it's like it's pretty fun. I like the idea of these fancy Edwardian characters carrying around these weapons, these shotguns and machine guns and everything else. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah. So I mean, I wanted to talk about it. It's got like 4 days left on it, but you have to. It still has the problems of the first one in that it's got a ton of miniatures. However, I do like that they have a couple of the cool Lovecraft characters in this box. Like they have Keziah Mason, who's from Dreams of the Witch House, and
Nice.
Brown Jenkins, which is the rat with the human face.
Yes, I just watched that.
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. It also has the color Out of Space, which I think is really cool. If you see the mini, you're like, oh, that's a really neat way of doing it. And just a couple of random Cthulhu-y things, but I really think it's cool that especially like for a couple Lovecraft things that you would never not normally see the minis for. But also, if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, you really don't need minis. You really shouldn't have minis.
I mean, they're useful for like some combats, but like they're definitely not something you need. I mean, there's a reason the game comes with like those little standees.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, as I always say, if you get into combat in Call of Cthulhu, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably gonna die.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
Not necessarily. It depends on the vibe, because if there's the detective vibe, they might be having gunfights with other humans, which means they might not actually necessarily die.
Yeah, I mean you're right, but I'm just saying that like when you're doing like you're going up against like a as I always say, it's kind of nice to do sometimes if you need to have an idea of the area. Like let's say there's a cult ceremony going on and your characters are sneaking around a perimeter or something like that. That's sometimes nice to have so that people have an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, combat and Call of Cthulhu. If you're in combat and Call of Cthulhu, you're doing it wrong. All right. So let's take a pause here and then we'll come back with round 2.
All right. Very good.
He's back. He's back.
He's mad. He's mad. Max Madsen.
I bought a car from Max Madsen. Did you know that?
Oh, I did not know that. That's
I did
pretty
buy
cool. Was it because of the radio ads?
It was actually because it was a Toyota on Mitsubishi lot, so you can get them cheaper.
Ah, nice.
Ever buying a used car, go to a lot that is specifically for one type of car and see if there's another car that maybe was traded in. You could generally get a nicer used car for cheaper because they just want to get it off the lot. So like a Mitsubishi dealer and they have a Toyota on lot, you're going to get it cheaper than if you go to a Toyota lot.
Good tip.
There's a good tip.
That's
Good tip from a 40-year-old dad.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. It's like dad fact.
Dad facts.
Like the other dad facts that I have is that that the most common cause of a house fire is not cleaning out your lint trap. I know, Joe. I know. My wife every week. I'm over. The other one is that she always wants a heated blanket. And I tell her, I go, you know what the number 2 cause of house fires are?
you need Gilbert Godfrey in the back would be like, I'm Seymour Smoke. I'm here to tell you about fire. And then you just bust into be cool about fire safety.
That's a deep pull. Yeah. But the thing is she's always like, those were always like 1960s electric blankets. They have them safer now. And I go, I would trust a 1960s electric blanket over a blanket made nowadays, because the blanket nowadays is probably far cheaper made and probably way less safe.
Doesn't have lead though. The 1960s blanket's definitely gonna have lead.
Yeah, that lead's what's gonna keep you safe. It's got asbestos in it.
That's right.
Yeah, not lead. It's got asbestos.
We got to get more asbestos on here.
Yeah. I go, well, yeah, of course the 1960s one was less safer because everything was coated in asbestos. So if they started a fire, it wouldn't actually burn anything. But then I would get to be able to get a mesothelioma lawsuit going. So
that's true.
Yes, that, or if I was at Camp Lejeune, I don't know. You don't watch regular TV, so you probably don't hear those as much.
Nope, I don't watch regular TV. And it was actually funny. Someone was asking me like, "When's the last time?" Someone actually called me out and asked me the last time I watched actual TV, and I couldn't remember.
I just watched The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror on Sunday.
Oh, that was the Death Note one, right?
Yes, they did Death Note. Yeah.
Nice.
Which it was not a bad episode. I've seen far worse ones in recent years, but this one I was kind of like, okay, I get it. They did a Babadook one, which was actually kind of scary. With the exception that the scariest thing is that they're still making Julie Kavner do Marge's voice, even though she sounds like she just wants to die.
The Treehouse of Horror episodes are always pretty good, though.
No, they've been bad.
Have they been? I mean,
yeah.
I said I should have said historically, because I haven't watched The Simpsons in a very long time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when did you stop? Yeah, The Simpsons were great. I stopped watching in season 9. I don't know what everybody's bitching about.
Yeah, I don't know what I was talking about. Simpsons is a great show.
And I'm one of those people who is a season 9 defender, because season 9 is not great, right? There's definitely a lot of stinkers in season 9, but I don't see them as there's more good episodes than bad episodes.
Well, season 9 was Armin Tanzarian, right?
Yeah, but the one right before that was City of New York versus Homer Simpson,
that episode's great.
Yeah, exactly. That episode's fantastic.
I'll take the crab juice.
Yeah, of course New York's going to be terrible if you only focus on the pimps and the chuds. Yeah, and that Treehouse that year was great. That was Treehouse 8, and that was the one where they do the Omega Man, which is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, Bart mixes and the Fly and the Salem witch trials one. But
oh yeah, all good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of good episodes, but there's also a lot of stinkers. I'm not going to defend all of them. It also has the leader in that season as well. The leader episode. I don't know. That's one of my favorites, where it's they go to the cult, and it's like Homer's like, doesn't this bean look just like the leader? It's the leader beans.
It's the leader beans. Oh, yes. It's the crazy cult, right?
Yeah, the crazy sect. I don't remember what they're called.
Right. Yes, I remember. They're all in the robes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so last year's Treehouse, they did a Parasite. So the Treehouse is basically, if you have 2 good segments, it's a good Treehouse. If you have 3 good segments, it's a great Treehouse. And if you only have 1, it's no good. You're done. But for example, last year they did Parasite, which was I don't understand why people really liked Parasite. I watched it. I was like, I don't get it. I was like, yes, rich people are horrible. I get it. Like, you don't have to create a whole movie to tell me that.
Capitalism makes parasites of us all, Joe.
It's like I'm surprised that people are shocked by that statement.
Leader beans.
Hey man, if you found out that rich people were awful or that money is awful from the movie Parasite, I have a little red book that will change it. And they had like one where the trees come to life that was really dumb. But they did a Coraline one, which was okay. I'll defend the Coraline one.
Okay.
But that was like two bad ones. It was a bad episode.
Yeah, you had a 1 out of 3.
Yeah, you got to have at least 2 out of 3 to make it good. And this one, they did they did the Death Note one, which I didn't get because I never watched Death Note, but I really liked the animation style. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool looking. At least that took the place of it being a like I didn't know anything.
Mm.
They did that one. They did a what was the other one they did a parody of? Now, I was thinking about the other Treehouse and I forget. But they did oh yeah, they did the Babadook one. They did that one, and then they did a Westworld one, which I actually thought was pretty clever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was clever enough that it was like, okay, this is decent. It's not a great segment.
One was like, I see what you're doing here.
I see what you're doing here. It was fine, and it was fun, but the Japanese animation style was pretty good.
Cool.
Man, you got me talking I'm all offside these games now stuff. There's not a ton to talk about game wise. Anyway, those were the 2 main ones that I wanted to talk about was Cthulhu Death May Die and the controversy with Spikey Bits and the new Vallejo.
The Juan Hidalgo.
Juan Hidalgo. Remember when?
As far as I can tell, completely manufactured controversy.
I mean, yeah, it's basically designed to drive people to both of them and take internet sides.
Yes, we need your internet dollars.
Yeah, we need your internet dollars.
Like and retweet my comment if you think I'm right. Like and retweet my opponent's comment if you think that idiot's right. But that also makes you an idiot.
Exactly. It's like, and I
hate that what I just said sounded like a joke, but it's not.
It's not. No, I'm me and you, I think are of the enlightened centrists of internet gaming. Can't both sides, but we're not like the centrists where it's like, I think both sides have good points. We're the enlightened centrists. We're like, both sides really suck in this situation.
Both wrong.
No, they're not both wrong. Actually, if I think of anything, I think Juan Hidalgo is a little bit better because at least he's creating content.
I meant it that was like an imaginary sense. I didn't mean in this specific. This specific circumstance seems to be pretty obviously Spikey Bits is the offender here.
Yeah, but I also on the other hand, I also think that most online painters, like, it's fine, but I don't really see the point.
I've used some paint schemes from them before.
You maybe. So here's my way of looking at online painters. This is the Joe philosophy with online painters, is that the majority of people who watch online painters think that they're going to develop their painting style around a specific guy, like a specific way of painting. It's difficult for me to explain this, but when you start painting, you have to develop your own style. You can't steal someone else's style. If you do that, it's going to be really hard because so much of a person's style is based off of their own development and in years of practice. Like, you're not going to paint like someone without years of practice and, working your own way. I have my very unique style of painting. You have your very unique style of painting. Occasionally, I'll go to like Tim and be like, "Hey Tim, what colors do you use for this type of metal?" And he'll say, "Oh, I use this, this, and this." And I'll be like, "Okay, I don't have 2 of those, but I have something that's similar, so I'll at least do it that way." And then every once in a while, I'll be like, "Hey Tim, that's really cool how you did that. How did you do that?" And you'll be like, "Oh, I did this." And so I'll do something that adapts to my own painting style as opposed to his direct style. Because if I tried to paint like him, I would never get anything painted.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think also that there's a lot of reason to watch people painting for the exact same reason what you just said you do with Tim. Like you can see something, like see someone how someone does something. It's like looking at it's like looking at someone else who's painting if you're just painting. Like it's not necessarily to clone, but it's always good to see other perspectives or other reasons why someone does this. Like be like, oh, you know what? The way this guy does red is really cool, and you're like, I'm going to use this guy's way he does red. That kind of thing.
Yes, that's the way that you should look at painting videos, but I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are like, I want to paint exactly like Juan Hidalgo. I'm going to watch his videos and I'm going to try and copy him all the way through. And then you never get painting because it's too complicated for you. You have to just, it's basically, you just got to throw paint on a model and you have to paint to the level that you want to paint. And you just look at that and look at that. And then you say like, okay, this is my model that I painted. This is what I want to improve on. How am I going to improve on this specific part? And then you maybe find a video or you find some techniques that are going to help you with that specific part. I mean, that's just my philosophy with it. I know it's not necessarily exactly with the way that people think, but that's the way that I think people think. And because I'm always the main character in my own play, I'm always right.
Ah, yes. I'm the protagonist here.
I'm the protagonist.
The protagonist.
I'm the protagonist here. This is the way it needs to be done.
Oh, good times, good times.
Yeah, exactly. But whatever. It goes to the slap chop stuff. Like I look at it, I'm just like, why would anybody want to paint their models that they paid so much money for and spend all this time putting together in such a sloppy, gross way?
Maybe they just don't care. They want to get it done, bro.
They just want to get it done, bro. Gonna throw it on the table. This is the current great meta that we're gonna play with.
You got to throw it on the table. They're playing games. You're still painting your mans.
I'm still painting my mans. Exactly. But whatever. I actually speaking of, I've remember how last cast, I think it was last cast, we were talking about how I really enjoy those Games Workshop board games.
Yes.
I actually put together, I actually got one more. I went out and I found a copy of Speed Freaks. Do you remember Speed Freaks?
Oh yeah, that was a while back.
That was a while back. And I found a guy selling just the box with the rules and all the cards and all like that stuff. No models, and it didn't have the play mat, which is like the cardboard terrain board that they had, which is not a big deal for me. You don't really need that for the game. Mm-hmm. But that game is super cool. Like, man, this is God. No one ever goes out and says. I never remember anyone saying like, no, you don't need you don't worry about the minis in this game. Play the game. The game is really fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably just one of those things where a lot of people probably just bought that to get the figures. They probably took the figures out and just tossed the rest of everything else.
No, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly what happened. I will say that one thing that I do appreciate about Games Workshop is that they do sell those boxes just for the minis, but when they do create a game like that, and you can find them on the secondary market fairly cheap, like the box with the rules in it. And if you wanted to get the official models for it, you could always buy those piecemeal later. You don't necessarily need to get everything if you miss out on it, but you could generally get the rule set fairly cheap.
Yeah. I mean, or free if it's just the rules too.
But I mean, it depends. Like if you go to your local gaming store and someone's buying it just for the models, you can go like, I could tell Giuseppe, it's like, hey, if someone doesn't want their box with the stuff in there, they just want the models, give them my phone number or my email address and I'll take it off their hands. I'll give them a couple bucks for it.
Sure.
Yeah. Giuseppe would do that for me. He's a good kid.
He's a good lad.
He's a good lad. Oh, this is something I wanted to talk about. One last thing is that they're releasing the final expansion for Curse City. Did you see that?
I did see that. It's very cool. It needs a lot more models.
Yes, it needs a lot more models, but it's once again, so Curse City comes out. It has 2 expansions that they did, and they are, and then they're done with it. That's it. That's the end of Curse City. So
yeah, then they'll go into the next Warhammer quest.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe we'll see how that goes. They might hold off on quest for a little bit. Just kind of get the stink of Cursed City off of it for a little bit. It's their own fault. They called it cursed. They called it the Cursed City, and it was a cursed release. Everything about Warhammer
right.
Quest Cursed City has been cursed. Every release cursed.
It's true.
But it's a great game. I really enjoy it.
I guess the only other gaming news really is like, it's all a bunch of new Magic stuff, a bunch of new Pokemon stuff. Although Upper Deck announced that they're doing their next Legendary Encounters game, which, as anyone knows, so the Legendary is the Marvel deck building game that they do, which has tons and tons of different things. But the Encounters series is basically like, this is a standalone game. They're all technically compatible, but it's a different IP, and they've chosen the red hot IP, The Matrix.
Ooh, that is red hot.
Yeah, so there's the Matrix deck building game coming from Upper Deck Legendary Encounters. I'm sure it'll be good. All the Legendary games are generally spot on. Like, I had the Alien one, and I played it probably more than any other box game I've had before, and like, it really, like, when you play the scenarios, it really captures it like really well. Like each one was like, it was like, oh, like, this kind of does have a vibe of the first Alien film. Like, this does.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
That might be Starship Troopers. I always get them confused.
It started Alien, then it went into Starship Troopers.
Yes.
Yes. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
yeah, it's Starship Troopers.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of those card games tend to like, I always say that about what's the company, Gale Force 9. Gale Force 9 is really good about when they put out a game, it feels like whatever IP they're using.
Yeah, the game feel. That's one of those things where, like, I think if you're using an IP, game feel becomes really important.
Well, what was the one? Oh, it's the Star Trek one. The one where it's like with the tiles and the ships.
Yeah.
Ascendancy? Is that what it is?
I think it's Ascendancy. Yes.
Yeah, that game feels really cool and Trekky. Like, way better than any other Trek game I've ever seen.
Yeah, it definitely looks like I think it is the ultimate Trek board game. Like, if you you can ignore every other Star Trek board game, just go for Ascendancy, especially because they I think they're at Voyager now, because they did the Borg. They covered everything from Next Gen. They did the Cardassians. Then they did the Dominion.
Yeah.
I think they did everything from. The only thing they could do is if they go backwards. I guess they could do like TOS stuff if they wanted to.
I mean, they could. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I think that Next Gen era lends itself much better to what they're trying to do with different factions and stuff like that.
True. Yeah, I mean, the Ferengi are in there now too. So I mean,
yeah. Can I get a model of the Titan with Riker on board?
I bet you could.
Yes.
If you couldn't find it, I bet you could 3D print it.
Yes, I was. I've been rewatching. I've been going through Lower Decks, giving it a rewatch, because I still am not a huge fan of it, but I'm enjoying it so far. I do like the Riker stuff that they do.
Yeah, I like Lower Decks. I think for what it is, it's very good.
Yeah,
like, it's a cartoon, so like, as long as you don't like, or I should say, it is a farcical cartoon.
Yeah, as long I don't like it when people say like, oh, this is actual Trek. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been actual Trek. I mean, the last actual Trek was Enterprise.
No, the last actual Trek is Strange New Worlds.
Oh, right. No, yeah, you've been singing the praises of Strange New Worlds.
Yes, Strange New Worlds is amazing, and everybody should watch it.
You said it's actually like a Star Trek show.
It feels very much like the original series, but if the original series had a budget and effects and good acting. Yeah, because
there's some good acting scenes in the original series.
Tell me, Kirk, what is love?
Oh, there's definitely some total garbo, but there's some good. Like, I think the acting in Balance is really
I don't
good.
know. Like, Angelique Pettyjohn was not a terrible actress, but there's some bad lines in there.
Oh, yeah.
like Yes, DeForest Kelly is a fantastic TV actor. Leonard Nimoy is a fantastic TV actor.
But then of course, we also definitely have DeForest Kelly doing killers, assassins.
And then he jumps into the portal and you have to kill Edith Keeler.
That's
Yeah.
right. Edith Keeler must die.
Yes.
That's a great name for a band.
There is a band called Edith Keeler Must Die. They're a punk
Oh,
band.
is there?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. No, I trust me. I thought about that. But I remember years ago, I remember thinking about that being the name of a punk band. I don't know if they're still around, but there was a band called Edith Keeler Must Die.
That's great.
But yes, there are many Star Trek. I love the original series. You just did a rewatch of the original series.
I did, and oh my god, it's like it is the weirdest Star Trek in terms of like where it's good and where it's bad, because holy shit, the season 1 is so good.
Yeah, season 1 and season 2 are very good. Season 3 is mostly terrible.
The cracks start showing in season 2.
Yes, definitely.
And then the Halloween episode, which is pretty bad. Cat's Paw.
Oh, Cat's Paw is universally regarded as like one of the worst episodes.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. But then you have like Squire of Gothos in season 2, which is really great.
Yes, that is a really good one.
I'm just trying to think of like season 2 episode, because it's hard for me because I generally think of season 2 and season 1 kind of blur together. So like Who Mourns for Adonai, I believe, is season 2, and I like that episode quite a bit. That's the one where they fight Apollo.
Oh yes, that's season 2.
Yeah, and that's also the one where Kirk talks about Jesus, and I'm kind of like, what?
Yeah, and then in other episodes they specifically like, oh, that's one of the things you can tell the writers were how they felt about religion based on what the characters were saying, because the characters' stances, opinions, and beliefs changed on episodes.
Yeah,
like
very much so.
Yeah, because there's episodes where Kirk's like, mankind doesn't have any gods, and then the other ones were like, well, just the one is fine. And it's like, wait, didn't you say that there was no? Wait, now you are? What's going on?
No, you're absolutely right, and that's the funny thing about original Trek is that of course they would like no plots would carry over from week to week. That was silly in the 1950s to have that.
Yeah,
or 1950s, in the 1960s to have that.
Everything had to be self-contained because no one was expected to be able to catch every show. Because I mean, these things were like only ever, as far as everyone knew, these things were going to show up once and then be gone.
Yeah, well, except for soap operas, those could continue.
Yes,
but that was considered something for women when they were home every day. Clean.
That's why they were called soap operas.
Yes, and so you had. Star Trek, so you wouldn't get TV shows that actually had plots that continued until you would get to the 1980s with when Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere kind of broke that ground.
Yeah, really. I mean, it had to be when they really started busting out syndication.
I mean, because even Next Gen really didn't have it until the later seasons.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then because there was. It's amazing that Tasha Yar stayed dead. Oh well, Tasha Yar sucked. I liked Denise Crosby a lot, but Tasha Yar was terrible.
I like Denise Crosby. I think most of the stuff in Star Trek Next Generation season 1 is pretty bad.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I think you should watch for I think anyone if you want to get into Next Generation, I literally think you should just watch the very first episode. Or you should watch Encounter at Farpoint for season 1, so you get the groundwork. Then watch, I think, is it the last episode of season 1 where Tasha Yar gets killed?
No, the last season is the one where they go up against the aliens, Conspiracy.
Right. Okay. So then I would watch whatever the episode where Tasha Yar gets killed by the shit monster. I'd watch that one.
Oh God, what's its name? God,
Yardak or something.
No. What's the name of the episode? Sorry, guys. Don't look it up. Use your brain.
I can't. I have no idea what the name of it is. It's like I was thinking Enemy, like Eye of Terror, or like no, I'm thinking Balance of Terror. Dude, I gotta look it up. I don't know. Tasha Yar, guys.
Skin of Evil. Skin of Evil.
Skin of Evil is correct.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, so watch Skin of Evil, and then basically start at what, season 2, episode 2?
No. Yeah, you could. There's a couple good ones in season 1. There's not many, but there's a couple. But yeah, you could. I would definitely say watch the first episode. You don't have to watch Skin of Evil. Skin of Evil is just know that Tasha Yar dies at one point. But I would recommend watching Conspiracy in the Neutral Zone.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the Neutral Zone is actually the last one. Conspiracy is the second one, because the Neutral Zone, I forget, because the Neutral Zone is the one at the very end where they preview the Borg.
Yes.
And they have the people that they unfreeze. And I always remember that's the finale of season 1. Because remember, they unfreeze the people, and there's that one guy who's like a banker, and he's like, I got to get control of my money.
Yeah, he's like, where's all my money? How am I going to make more money?
And then they got the country music player, too, who's played by the bad guy from, who's played by the bad guy from Darkman.
Yes, Durant.
I always think of him as Benny from LA Law, but
that's great. And then start with season 2, episode 2. You do not need to watch season 2, episode 1, The Child. You can just skip that episode.
Oh yeah, that one's bad.
It's real bad. It's funny too, because season 2 is where they came up with growing the beard, because that's like when TNG starts to take off, and also when Riker grew the beard. Ironically, the very first episode where Riker has the beard is The Child, and that episode's terrible.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's funny because I was just reading about online how they're canceling Westworld, right, on HBO. The show's getting canceled after season 4.
Okay.
Which I understand. That show.
I can't believe it lasted longer than 1 season.
I can't believe it. Yeah. I know I could believe it lasted longer than that first season, because that first season was super good.
No. Not because it's quality. The first season was incredible, but it was like, I didn't think that the story would go much farther. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like done.
No, you're right. I see the first season as really, the first season was amazing. The second season, you saw everything just fall apart with that script. It was too confusing.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And I liked the weeb stuff, but even then, it was just kind of like, I was like, you can't go into like these 2 new directions, then also Japan, and then also veer off into the real world into really weird directions as well. You can't do that all at once.
No, you're absolutely right, and that was the problem. I just saw like the second season just got too complicated, and then it fell apart. And I say, like, the Westworld may be one of the better first seasons of television I've seen. Westworld, Battlestar Galactica, Lost are probably the 3 that I could think of that are like
Star season 1. Holy shit.
Those are like the 3 that I was just like, holy shit, these are like the best first seasons of a show I've ever seen. And I defend Battlestar. Like season 2, like the first half of season 2 is really great. I know that most of season 2 is really great. The first half of season 3 is really great. And then I think the finale is okay. Like there's the mutiny episodes of the last season are fantastic.
Yes.
But everything after that is poo. Like the finale is not great.
The finale's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah. But man, those first 2 seasons of Battlestar Galactica were amazing to watch.
Oh yeah, they're like like I said, I've never seen a show that had a more precipitous fall. Like the quality from episode 1 being like, whoa, to like the final episode being like, that's it's usually not the case. Usually like there's a slower decline. This one was just like off a fucking cliff.
Yeah, there was that season 3. Once they got off of the New Caprica, because the whole battle for New Caprica was amazing,
right? And also that cut with Gaius Baltar, absolutely so good. When he puts his face down on the desk, and then he gets up, and then it's like he's got a beard. And it's like a huge time skip.
Yeah, I know. I think it's pretty fantastic. But whatever, c'est la vie. Game of Thrones, I think, had a really good first season too, but it was only 8 episodes, so it really doesn't count as much.
Right. Yeah, this is true.
Are you watching House of the Dragon at all?
Not yet. Not yet.
The amount of internet thirst for Aemon One Eye is laughably great.
Oh yeah, is he like the ultimate Tumblr sexy man?
Oh yes, it's like so. The internet is divided right now between older fans thirsting after Doctor Who on that show, and the younger fans thirsting after the guy that looks like a younger version of Doctor Who on that show. Because the guy who plays Aemon One Eye looks like a dollar store Matt Smith, but he's younger, so it's like he has that sexy appeal, and he's got the eye patch too. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. And he's kind of like a bad boy. Like they're both bad boys. So the internet thirst has been insatiable.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking at there's a picture of the two of them next to each other, and like, damn, they really do look similar.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's makeup, because if you see them without the makeup, they don't look that similar, but they do a really good job with the makeup on that show.
Yeah, well, there you go. The makeup makes it look that they're very, very similar. And there's yaoi fan art like fucking like one scroll down of this of Aemon.
There you go.
So yeah, so there you go. It's very, the thirst is real.
The thirst is real, and it's fantastic. And it is like and as I say, as an older fan of things, like I could let go and just kind of enjoy the fact that people are like, that younger fans are like thirsting after these actors, and it's like, you could tell.
I love when people are horny for characters. I actually don't like when people are horny for actors, but I do like when people are horny for characters.
Yeah, I was talking with my wife as soon as the guy who played Aemon One Eye showed up on the show, because he doesn't show up at the beginning. He's like after a couple time jumps and his character ages. As soon as he popped up, and I said, the amount of fan art that's going to be drawn about that guy is going to break the internet.
Nice.
Yes.
Perfect example being like, I wouldn't kiss Cole Meany. I don't think Cole Meany is attractive.
I would kiss Cole Meany.
I would not, but I would kiss Miles O'Brien.
I wish I could condense that down to put on a t-shirt, but
but I would kiss Miles O'Brien.
Yes, but I'd kiss Miles O'Brien.
Yeah, but I would kiss Miles O'Brien.
You know what it would be? Remember that internet webcomic of where they would have it was like all about Miles O'Brien.
That comic was so bleak.
It was just super bleak. I would create a shirt with just that picture of him sitting at the transporter controls, and on the top it says, I wouldn't kiss Colmini, but I'd kiss Miles O'Brien underneath.
I like that.
We should talk to the guy that created that, just so we could put that together.
I think it was called O'Brien at Work or something.
Yeah, something like that.
That's awesome.
You know what season 2 of Star Trek does have? The Outrageous Okona.
That episode is ridiculous.
It's stupid and ridiculous, and it stars the Rocketeer. Okay. Well, we gotta get ending here. So go to your Game Classy Facebook page. It's the best way that you can get in contact with us. You can like, comment, and subscribe on the iTunes. You can like, comment, and subscribe on the did I say YouTubes?
I don't know if you said YouTube.
Like, comment, subscribe on the iTunes. Like, comment, subscribe on the YouTubes. Wait, fuck, god damn it! I might have to cut that part. You can like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe on the iTunes. Whatever. I'll cut it and make it sound right.
Okay.
You say this so many times that you lose track of it, and you want to make sure that you're hitting it, even though it doesn't really matter in the long run. If you want to talk with Steve, you could follow him at Twitter at @command_throw. And if you want to talk with me, you could follow me on the Instagram at GameClassyJoe. I've actually started posting again some minis.
You're a content creator.
I'm a content creator again.
The content.
The painting funk I was in was real.
Yeah.
It's been real hard for me getting back into the swing of things. But anyway, Steve, until next time.
Cram, I've never prayed to you before. No tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died, All that matters is two stood against many. That's what's important. Valor pleases your crown. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
You know, Terry Hatcher was also in the Outrageous Okona. I'm just putting that out.
Nice.
Later.
Later.
Game Classy.